I was listening to another talk about NIM, um, and I think someone brought up, maybe it was you that brought up the idea of the way that the packets might look, or the network traffic looks from the outside, and there are certain countries, states that essentially attempt to censor traffic based on the traffic looking odd, essentially, which sort of goes to an earlier point that you made about the kind of the dragnet thing, and you can kind of get into this like this dystopian future, get this vision of the dystopian future where only sort of like sanctioned looking traffic is like, it's like it doesn't discriminate based on like, oh, what's it coming from an XYZ application. You could see like a really scary future where it's like, just to be, to use an extreme example, it's like, only government, only traffic from government APIs, or, or government apps, or like whatever it is. XYZ service is the only one allowed. So I guess I'm wondering what is the solution to that? Is there any discussions at NIM and in the NIM community about how you tackle this? Is it as big a problem as it might seem? What's your response to that? What would you say about kind of these strange looking packets?
Yeah, so to kind of reiterate the point that I think it was me in an earlier talk that I made as well. So like at the moment, one of the things that NIM is not in its current instance is completely censorship resistant, right? Which is different from the ability to surveil something, because, like we've said, surveillance relies on being able to create links between either data or metadata, right, in this network traffic. Now, one problem, basically, at the moment, or like that we have seen, is that, like you said, all like NIM traffic actually looks really weird, because there are very few applications that start up and immediately start sending like a string of identically sized packets anywhere. That's just because why would you, right? If you don't have to, if you're not trying to obfuscate which packet is a real packet in a string of kind of, in a stream of data, then there's been no reason for you to do that. So NIM traffic does look weird. And then there was a point, and then, so, it was, you obviously have countries like China, and some other places that, especially if, places like Iran, where the internet is subject to being cracked down on or even turned off. These packets trigger something that then will say, whoa, and then shut those connections down and kill those connections. Now, luckily, at the moment, that is only certain countries, and there are ways around this. And these are ways that are, these are ways that are kind of used already. Like a lot of people in China use stuff like shadow socks to get that first. They use a VPN to get that first hop kind of outside of the Great Wall of China, so it doesn't kind of, so they can essentially like get out of that firewall. And so, yes, we, obviously there are other people, groups like Mask Network, right, who are kind of also from, like from those places, or grew up in those places, right, and have like a lot more direct experience with like actually interacting with them, that we can be talking to. But there are also solutions like, adding a first hop that's a VPN to get you into a jurisdiction that doesn't immediately crack down on weird looking traffic, right? So there are ways around it, and I think that's, I think one thing that I think it highlights quite nicely is that, which maybe it turns into a broader point, or like a broader problem I have with kind of Silicon Valley stuff, and the way that I think technology is presented, which is similar to what we were talking about beforehand with VPNs, right? There is no single silver bullet to getting around any of this stuff. You know, like there will always be there was always this arms race. There was always a dance between people, like structures that are looking to stop this happening, and people who want to be able to freely use the internet, or use GNOME and use Tor and stuff like that. And I think that's also like a really important point of what projects especially projects who are focusing on privacy, projects who are focusing on censorship resistance, projects who are essentially to kind of use the you've had both Rachel Rose O'Leary and Paul Ennis on in the past, and they were talking about agorism a lot, and these ideas of you could even go back to the kind of like free as in freedom, kind of old free software stuff. This is always a dance, and technology should always be seen as a tool to enable this dance to continue to happen. This isn't a silver bullet, and I think that's also the overwhelming conception of technology that's been pushed by basically by Silicon Valley, by governments, is like, oh well, there's a technological solution to this, and that technological solution then removes the need to worry about it. WhatsApp becomes E2E encrypted. Then you don't have to worry about the government spying on you anymore. You use a VPN, that you also don't have to worry about it. It's these kind of like placatory things, as well as saying, oh, well, tech will always fix the problem, that I also think projects that in the space that we're kind of talking about need to be, it's an education and a consciousness that we also kind of need to like get people to, to spread as much as actually also saying, hey, and use the piece of kit that we're making. It's also the philosophy behind it and the way of engaging with technology and the social structures that exist and what you want to do. And I think that's what has attracted a lot of people to this space who now work in it too. Even though Bitcoin ultimately was proved, especially with machine learning, to be kind of like at very best pseudonymous, but you can get docs very easily. The nature of what Bitcoin was, I think the narrative of it is also something that drew loads of people to the space. But we need to make sure that like the narrative of what the narrative is aiming at keeps evolving, which is happening. You mentioned Luna DAO as well, and the whole Luna Punk kind of movement, for lack of a better word, are also really focusing on the holistic educational side, I think, of how you use privacy tech and like what it can't do too, which is the really important thing to know. If you actually want to stay private, you want to stay anonymous, it's like knowing what you can't use something for is almost as, sometimes it might actually be more important depending on your threat model, depending on the situation you're operating in, could actually be more important than knowing how to use it and what it will do for you, and there will always be real world problems that a piece of technology can't solve on its own, but knowledge sharing through open source, I think, is it allows you to put solutions together, in inventive and weird ways.
Unchecked governments have eradicated privacy and truth. Those who resist are brought down swiftly, but we refuse to submit. Lunapunks are freedom fighters, protected by encrypted shadows. The future we're building is sovereign and uncensorable. The moonlit night is coming.